Sound is clear. We are going to be live very soon. And now we are just checking the sound, how democratization causes war. We are going to talk about how sometimes democratization causes war, and uh, our topic will be for about 10 minutes. We will first talk about how democratization causes war, and then we will talk about democratic versus democratizing institutions. So now let's start our topic. The common question is, why are democratization and autocratization associated with an increased chance of war? What causal mechanism is at work? Based on case studies of four great powers during their initial phases of democratization, we argue that threatened elites from the collapsing autocratic regime, many of whom have parochial interest in war and empire, use nationalist appeals to compete for mass allies with each other and with new elites. In these circumstances, the likelihood of war increases due to the interests of some of the elite groups, the effectiveness of their propaganda, and the incentive for weak leaders to resort to prestige strategies in foreign affairs in an attempt to enhance their authority over diverse constituencies. Further, we speculate that transitional regimes, including both democratizing and autocratizing states, share some common institutional weaknesses that make war more likely. At least in some cases, the link between autocratization and war reflects the success of a ruling elite in using nationalist formulas developed during the period of democratization to cloak itself in populist legitimacy while dismantling the substance of democracy. In explaining the logic behind these arguments, we draw on some standard theories about the consequences of different institutional arrangements for political outcomes. We illustrate these arguments with some contemporary examples and with cases drawn from four great powers at early stages in the expansion of mass political participation. Mid-Victorian Britain, the France of Napoleon III, Bismarckian and Wilhelmine Germany, and Taisho Japan. So these are the four examples which turns from autocratic to democratization and sometimes cause war. So now let's talk about the democratic versus democratizing institutions. Well institutionalized democracies that reliably place ultimate authority in the hands of the average voter virtually never fight wars against each other. Moreover, although mature democracies do fight wars about as frequently as other types of states, they seem to be more prudent. They usually win their wars. They are quicker to abandon strategic over commitments, and they do not fight gratuitous preventive wars. Explanations for these tendencies focus variously on the self-interest of the average voter who bears the costs of war, the norms of bargaining and conflict resolution inherent in democracy, the moderating impact of constitutional checks and balances, and the free marketplace of ideas. However, these happy solutions typically emerge only in the very long run. In the initial stages of expanding political participation, strong barriers prevent the emergence of full-fledged democratic processes and the foreign policy outcomes associated with them. The two main barriers are the weakness of democratic institutions and the resistance of social groups who would be the losers in a process of full-fledged democratization. Popular inputs into the policy-making process can have wildly different effects depending on the way that political institutions structure and aggregate those inputs. It is a staple of political science that different institutional rules, for example, proportional representation versus single member districts, or congressional versus executive authority over tariffs, can produce different political outcomes. Even holding constant the preferences of individual voters in newly democratizing states, the institutions that structure political outcomes may allow for popular participation in the policy process, but the way they channel that input is often a parody of full-fledged democracy. As Samuel Huntington has put it, the typical problem of political development is the gap between high levels of political participation and weak integrated institutions to reconcile the multiplicity of contending claims. In newly democratizing states without strong parties, independent courts, there is no reason to expect that mass politics will produce the same impact on foreign policy as it does in mature democracies. So that's all about how democratization causes wars and the democratic versus democratizing institutions. And at last, I'd like to repeat the four great powers at early stages in the expansion of mass political participation. Number 1, mid-Victorian Britain. Number 2, the France of Napoleon III. Number 3, Bismarckian and Wilhelmine Germany. Number 4, Taisho Japan. So that's all about how democratization causes war and the democratic versus democratization institutions. So thank you very much for your patient hearing. And I hope this channel is for educative and edutainment purposes only. If you like this channel, if you like the videos of this channel, you can share this and you can subscribe to this channel. Thank you for your kind participation to this video.